Hello, welcome into this week's APEX Community Webcast. This is episode 7. I think I've remembered it correctly this time around, unlike last time.
Yeah.
I'm joined here by Asylum FPV as always, and also this week we have the fantastic Pressure FPV of DCL track building fame. Good to have you on board. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, it's good, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Pleasure to have you on, dude.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah. That's the crazy track builder himself.
Yeah, it took me a long time to do that, but you know, we got there in the end. I was beta testing the track development, so whilst I was doing that, I had to learn it. I'd never used it before. I'd never used Unreal Editor or anything like that, and I thought, well, I'm going to dive into this and put some effort into it and make a track. So learn the software, learn how to use it, made a track, put it up for testing whilst I was testing the beta. And from then people said, hang on a minute, these tracks are all right that you're making. So I made a few more, and hopefully a few more will be added to the game.
They need to give you a job. That's what they need to do.
I'd love a job there.
Especially if you can just sit at home, make tracks, and just go, here you go, guys, go play with that, and then all of a sudden your tracks are all up. That'd be awesome.
Filippo would be happy.
I think it would help him out quite a bit because Filippo can take a break a little bit. It seems like everyone in the Discord server's asking for it. They get new tracks every week. I'd be happy with it, obviously, for sure.
I'd be surprised if they're not bashing on your door when the new season starts, going, hey, we're going to pitch this one, and this one, and thanks for that.
I've sent them a few files with a few tracks on, which I said they can use if they want. So after that, when they're expired, hopefully people are going to say, we need some more tracks.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's going to be, well, let's talk business, guys. You know, I'm developing the game for you.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that fine line between, doing it for the love of it and then turning it into a committed job?
It does take a lot of time. It takes hours of my weekends and my afternoons, and
man,
I've not always got it just to make tracks. I've got to race for the team, manage the team, organise the team. You know, this plus life as well. Yeah, exactly.
I had a look at Filippo's video actually with the kind of tutorial for the track edit. I don't know. It's a bit like if people haven't used the Unreal like kind of world creation software, so you're not gonna have a clue how this works. Like he's kind of there going, hey, you drag this and you put that, and I'm like. Oh, you do that. That's fine. You just carry on doing that. I'm like, I don't know how we'd be able to do like the Apex stuff, flying and creating tracks at the same time. Like, that's too much.
It was hard work. Plus real life flying, building, you know.
Yeah, man, takes time.
Tuning, plus there's loads going on.
Just make sure if you do get on the squad, don't give us any more tracks like those those Lake Zurich ones. I've been trying to fly them this week. Like, there's a couple that I'm sort of like, these are okay, but then there's two. I think it's the one from with the last day where there's that kind of like the under over around the back of the boat house thing.
Yeah, it's horrendous.
Awful. And the ping pong, I can't do it.
I just ping pong.
I can't memorize it. I flew it for an hour the other day, and I just my brain, I couldn't. I was like, I was going right, and I should be going left. I could not.
I like that feeling. I need somewhere to sink my teeth into, and that's when I first started playing the sim, the hard tracks, I couldn't finish them.
Yeah,
you know,
true story.
A month later, you're blasting them off, and I think it's the case with these new tracks that have come out. It's going to be the same replay of that, and those emotions you go through when you're flying them, actually quite enjoyable at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. The China ones are like that actually for me at the moment. Like I feel I'm just capable enough to be doing the China ones and sort of sneaking into like the 5 prop sort of time trial territory, and it's a really good feeling. But I think it's like I think the Lake Zurich one's going to take a lot of work. I think that's kind of like the next step up, you know. But then again, like you say, like when we all started flying this, I don't think we'd ever dreamed that we would be setting any kind of reasonable times on these tracks, and all of a sudden it's surprising. I actually went back over my time trials times a couple of weeks ago because I'd not reset any times on time trials on PC for a long time, and I take like 10-12 seconds off of some tracks, and it's like I remember at the time I was like, I'm never going to go faster than this.
Exactly that. Hopefully with these new tracks, when you've learned the new skills from the new tracks, you go back over your time trials again and you improve again.
Exactly.
So it's a good thing.
And that's the biggest thing, I think. Yeah, and learning those new skills and being able to implement them across the board. Like, you know, as Shane said, you go back and do a track that you haven't done for a while, like Lax or something like that, which we did last week, and then all of a sudden, I know from my own personal experience, I couldn't hit that tunnel, you know, the pull-up tunnel, or even a couple weeks ago when you were diving back down. The amount of times that I absolutely KO'd that, and then I haven't touched that track at all. I know, you know, I haven't gone back and done it at all. I'm just been too busy doing other stuff, and then I'm nailing it every time without even thinking. It's just like, okay, well, I have kind of evolved. That's cool. But having that challenge of a track every week, which you've actually got to stop, and that was the thing with your track last week, is that it was, okay, stop, think, slow it down, and then learn it again, and then go again. And it was like, the first few runs that I did, I'm like, okay, how the hell am I going to hit that gravity gate? Because that's just a totally new element. And all of a sudden, I was just like rolling over it and through, and I'm like, sweet, all right, now I've got that. That's awesome. But yeah, I think for the first couple of days, my eyes were almost bleeding trying to get through it. Concentrating so hard. Yeah, we're going to do this. But yeah, it was awesome, man.
Yeah,
how many tracks have you got up?
Do you know, I should know the answer straight off the bat, but I don't. I think there's about 15 on there.
There's a few, yeah.
I've got a few in development as well as, and organising the files. So I've got a list of about 35 files, but I think there's 15 that have been uploaded. So yeah,
nice. Because I know Shane was showing me the list, and I was like, it's got pressure. I'm like, dude, what is he doing? Making tracks.
It gets addictive when you've made a few and you know how to do it, and obviously I'm touching my skills up on the editor as I develop the tracks. But it's dead fun. The amount of time you can put into making a track and thinking certain little placements are on this week's trial. You go around a cone, and then a flag. Just that flag being a flag and not a cone makes it different. Just going around the corner. It don't sound daft, but it does. And just like when I first made that track, it was empty with no trees and nothing in it like that, and it felt dead easy. So then I added obstacles that come into your side of your visions when you're going around corners, and just by having that there changes the entire feel of the track. There's so many variables you can play with.
This is it. I remember the first tracks we had when they you had the sandbox tracks, I think, in the trials that week. And everyone was like, whoa, these brand new tracks. But you're flying them, and it was literally just like, it was the basic sort of matrix with a couple of gates on it. And it was interesting. It was good in as much as, you know, something like a Velocidrone track is very kind of multi-GP. It's very kind of short, tight, you know, and it was something different. But then it wasn't until we really had tracks with obstacles in that it felt just that realism was there. Because it's so different to flying in real life, where you are, like you say, things in your peripherals, and you know you got to worry about branches on trees or, you know, other things. Right. So you're right. I think it's not only are you're making a track, but you're building a little environment and a world to kind of fly in.
Well, on that though, I've got another bit on the go where I'm actually just spending my full time building a whole environment.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
With no track, but I want it to be like an official DCL one, and it's taking some time. You know, to build a building, and you make a cube on top of a cube on top of a cube, and change the colours so the bricks look real. Then you've got your curves, you've got your lights. It's going to take a while, but I
think that it's something they could use is like, maybe not necessarily like loads more environments, but I think like a freestyle playground. You know, I think people have been asking for that lobby system for a long time, and I know they're sort of putting in a more control over multiplayer by the looks of it. But it would be cool to have that kind of like just drop into a lobby, hang out, fly with your mates, you know? The amount of people that kind of do it on things like Liftoff, you go in and you just play a game of quad with your mates. And it's not a feature of the game, but you're just in a lobby with your mates. It's like, hey, let's go fly over here. Who wants to try this trick, you know? I think that would be so beneficial. I mean, there's so many people that are still playing it. Capitalize on that.
Mic chats in the voice servers. Obviously, if you wanted to speak on the mic with somebody you're playing with, you've got to use Discord or Skype or some other app. On console, you can just put your headset on and chat to them. On PlayStation, you can just put it on your headset on and chat to them. That needs to come over to PC.
Definitely. Yeah, it's one thing PC's lacking, actually, I think, compared to console. Obviously, console's lacking a lot of things. Frames per second being a very big one.
Depends on the console.
True, yeah.
Over 100 frames, not counting.
And not looking, not checking.
I was lucky if I hit 30.
Yeah, not checking at all.
I've tried both consoles now, and the two consoles are very different. Xbox is definitely the toughest out of, definitely by far the toughest. PlayStation's pretty close to PC.
Is Xbox still controller only, isn't it? But gamepad.
Officially, yeah. There is a way around it, but officially it is just gamepad.
Because that's the thing.
It's $100 workaround. You've got to get this little box that then converts your signal, that then feeds it back into your Xbox. And from what I understand, that's not the greatest anyway.
It's Microsoft lockdown, isn't it? It's
Yeah, there's another way around it. You can stream your console to your PC, play the game on your PC, plug your transmitter into your PC, use an emulator on the PC to emulate it as a controller, and you can fly it like that, which doesn't cost anything.
If you're using your PC, just get it on Steam and be done with it.
Yeah, if your PC can play the game. If your PC can you can stream it to your laptop that doesn't play the game. So
yeah, that's true.
There's people that haven't got PCs that will play the game, but they've got laptops or some sort,
Yeah, I'm that number one person right there, and I can't get my transmitter to work on it, so I just ordered another one. I've had enough.
It's not the transmitter. Transmitter's fault.
No, it is. Well, it's actually not the transmitter's fault. It's my cables, but I'm going to blame my transmitter.
Which transmitter do you use?
FlySky i6.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So everyone goes quiet when I say that. Oh, yeah, you do exist.
Ah, yes. Cheap rubbish, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one 2 years ago.
Yeah, you look at it, and usually most people throw it when they get something different. But I actually don't mind it. It's actually been really good to me. But I have ordered another one. It's kind of a bit of a hybrid, I kind of think. Between a gamepad and a T16S. So yeah.
FlySky's underrated, I think. They're pretty decent. I first started when I was first flying with FlySky transmitters. Well, it was the Evolution that I used, the game style one, because I'm a thumb grip, so I don't really like the big box ones. They remind me of just the old boats guy, but it reminds me of the old boat remotes when you drive boats around and stuff like that. And I need something that feels like a gamepad and looks up to date.
Yeah.
That might be vain, I don't know, but.
The thing was that I've been there. Yeah, I
big chunkies.
Yeah, I almost picked up one of them. You're the reason why I didn't actually get it, Shane. To be completely
honest.
Why? I actually found one, and it was in Andreas pink. Also, right?
Nice.
So it was here in Australia, and he wanted like $80. It was a limited edition or something.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with me?
You'd have had that.
No, you shit canning out your bloody receivers all the time. I don't want it.
So if it was up to me, I need to. I still haven't got anything to go in the back port, so I will. One day I'm gonna go TBS, but yeah.
Everybody wants it.
Need to be able to get hold of one, and that's the problem.
There's Ghost about now though, and Tracer and all that in there.
Yeah, I've seen the tracers around. So
it's funny. We tried the Crossfire module on our FlySky X-Lite, and it actually made it worse.
You think?
I know. Yeah.
I've heard that actually. I've heard a few people now. A few people have said that it's not as great as people seem to think.
But then when I know someone who's got a Tango and the Tango 2, but you know what? He gets more fail-safes than any of us.
Strange.
So I don't know if it's his setup, the way he sets it up. I don't know, but from our experience, FlySky seems to be pretty solid.
Yeah. See, I have problems with my receivers. I've had 3, I think, now that have just been bricked straight out of the packet. Won't even light up or anything. Can't even update firmware on it because it just doesn't work. So that's the problem I have. Is every time I order a receiver, I'm like, is this gonna work this time?
I've never had that issue. Yeah, that's a strange one.
No, neither have I. But yeah, I know Shane went through a phase of it. The F722 that was bricked.
Yeah, my Mamba was bricked. Yeah, yeah.
No, I've never managed to brick a board really.
Just literally out the pack.
Smashed into the ground.
I think yeah. No, I think it was a bad batch that came through. Cause like, where did I get it from? I think it was quadcopters.co.uk. But I went out to them and said, oh yeah, there's a couple of people that come back now from that particular batch of F7s. That it was a Mamba, it was a combo. So it was the ESC and the flight controller, and I think there was a lot of people that had problems with the flight controller. The ESC was fine, it was flight controller.
I think it depends when they're being manufactured. They only service the components that are manufacturing them a certain amount of time, and when you get to the end of the service, the time for the service on the machines, yeah, you get that's when the dodgy batches comes out. But Mamba,
you always try and avoid series ones and the N series, because being in manufacturing, you want the guts in the middle. You want about 3 to 6 months worth of product in the middle before they change over or whatever. But or earlier stock. But don't touch the first ones, don't touch the last ones.
Decent brand tends to help as well.
The industry, don't touch it. Yeah, so that's why I went the TA Pro. At least that's open. That's open TX. It'll cover everything except for Crossfire, but it's got a Crossfire bait. You can put Crossfire on that one.
There'll be a module.
No, that one you can't Crossfire at all. It was the jumper, the little jumper one that you can put it on, but that wasn't that. Even with the Open TX, it didn't come with a battery built in, a rechargeable battery built in. So at least this one I can show it onto the sim or straight into the console and be done with it. And it'll do everything that I've got. So I just thought, you know what? And it was only $100 Australian. So I'm like, you know what?
Why not?
It was either that or the $80 pink Tyrannus, and I thought, you know what? I'll just get it. Yeah, I just thought I'd go. I can always wrap it. I've got enough bloody vinyl wrap here, I suppose.
True.
You could Crossfire I always think it's only best if you're doing long range. For racing, people talk about the latency and all this and that, but there's that whole PID latency from the image to the brain to the thumbs to the drone to the image and back round, and those cutting out just those latencies from the remote to the drone. It doesn't always change the full cycle of the loop, When you get used to flying that transmitter and feeling the response of it, you've adapted.
I think that's a big thing though, isn't it? Like, it's the same with digital FPV feed versus analog. Like, everyone screams about how the low latency is the important part, but I think if you learn to fly with that tiny bit of latency, what does it matter at the end of the day? You fly what you know at the end of the day, I think.
Agreed. HD, I've not tried HD yet, to be honest, but
same.
I think I would like to go that way in the future.
What here you go then. What about the DJI FPV? Have you seen they've just invented FPV?
Oh no! You know what? I refuse to look at it.
Is it that bad?
I won't look at any videos, any pictures. I'm not interested. What I think is going to happen with that is, in the future, somebody is going to make a carbon frame. They're going to make a carbon frame like our typical FPV drones, and they're going to put the components from that onto the carbon frame.
It's funny. People already are. Yeah. But at that point, it's like, well, why don't you just use open source parts and put a DJI Air unit on it?
Exactly.
What are you doing? Why are you spending 1,700 quid?
I think the best thing from it is going to expand FPV. It's opening the doors to the public about FPV. And the advertisement for FPV for me is the best.
Buying FPV really going to drop that much coin on a thing when they can turn around and actually want to get into it?
This is the thing, though.
Do the same thing.
I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of DJI pilots suddenly become interested in FPV, and I think it's. I mean, look at it. Like it really it's FPV for beginners. It's like Fisher-Price My First Drone or My First FPV Drone. It's there to baby you through the process that we've all spent so long finessing in an analog way. They've just gone and boom, here's the return to home button, here's a safe hover button, here's a drop out the sky because there's a plane flying around. I think that to a lot of people is comfort. Like, it's quite difficult, I think, looking at FPV as a hobby and being like, where do I start? Where do I begin? Where do I drop in? What's the first thing I should buy? All this stuff. But I think that the trouble is you'll get a lot of people that will come in and will just crash, or they'll blow things up. There'll be news headlines about Mrs. Miggins down the road had a drone fly in her window because, you know, John, the guy's so used to flying his Parrot that he's not quite up to speed with this new one. That's going to be problematic. But what I do think we're going to see from it will be a change in legislation. And I think that's the important thing for us at the moment, because certainly where I live, it's still illegal to fly FPV. I mean, no one, there's two of us now. I met a guy this week who also flies FPV. But it's like, we don't care. We're still going to fly, because at the end of the day, if anyone turns around and says, well, you're doing that illegally, we just turn around and go, well, no, because that legislation is completely incorrect for this airborne vehicle. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You can't fly at line of sight. You know, if you're going to go do all this stuff, what's the, you know? So I think we'll see that, and I think we've already seen it. Really, I mean, there was some new legislation coming a couple of months ago.
I just hope they don't do one thing with that, where they make us have GPS so they can track our drones in the air.
Yeah, I think
the whole Red Cat thing that got going on in the States and Canada and that.
The registrations.
No, I'm not into. Yeah, nah, you can stick that. It's too much. Look, part of me is I'm damn well lazy. I don't want to have to log all my flights and tell people where I'm at and whatever. Same. I'm just lazy in that respect, but at the same time, get stuffed.
I think you've got to be smart, haven't you? You've got to think about, if you're going to legislate against, or not against, if you're going to legislate for the safe use of FPV drones, you've really got to look at it and go, okay, if we over legislate, people are just not going to adhere to it. We need to have that middle ground where people are, they're not happy with it, but they're kind of, they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, I can make,
Depends how busy they get. Like, if you go back to the car industry when cars were first made, and people were just making these cars in garages, welding bars together, sticking wheels on them and driving them. Now there's MOTs where they have to be tested once a year to make sure they're still drivable. In the drone world, I can't believe that in the future, you know, you can build these drones in your house, but how does anybody know that that's actually safe to fly? So at some point, I can see you're going to have to build the drone, take it to a place to be tested. They give you a pass and say, that's fine to be tested. The guy's competent to build, because you know, how do we know that we're competent to build with that?
Yeah, tested the electronics are all above board. And
and then when you've got that, you could be allowed to go in free roam, but obviously within laws, legislations, and responsibility.
50 meters of buildings, or, you know, whatever.
Stick to the common senses, really.
I think I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think DJI FPV is a good stepping stone, and it's great in terms of cinematic FPV and getting more people into the hobby. I just think that when those people realise that there's an alternative means of flying FPV for considerably less money, and when you break something, you can actually repair it without having to send it off for 300, 400 quid a year's worth of warranty. I don't know. I can't see. I think they're marketing to a market that doesn't yet exist, and that will be quite fleeting. I don't think it's going to be someone that hangs around. I think when you get into it and you're like, I really enjoy this, you're going to look for other. I mean, I did. You know, everyone does. You look at it, you get a little tiny whoop, and you go, "This is cool. What else is there?" You know, you don't just go, "I'm just going to buy 10 more tiny whoops." Like,
I did that backwards. My first drone was a 5-inch.
I
didn't even know about tiny whoops. I didn't know about any other drone except for the 5-inch drone, and to me that was the ready salted crisp, and that was the only drone you could get. And I didn't know any other. And then when I found whoops, I thought, whoops.
I fly these in my house.
Exactly.
That's one thing I do like about the smaller ones. Like, certainly, if I'm flying at the field, normally, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my 5-inch. I love my DCL quad. I love big quads. Like, that's the bread and butter for me. But if I want to just go down to the field and set a track up and just go and hit some gates, I will always use a 2.5 or a 2, because the gates can be smaller. The track feels 10 times bigger.
The packs I've got 3 2.5-inch drones, which when I get to the field and I do my first packs with the 2.5-inch drone to feel the flow before I fly my 5-inch. But the battery packs, the 2.5-inch drones, they're so cheap compared to
like 2 or 3 quid.
6. Yeah, exactly. And you can cycle through loads of them in a month, and the actual time that you fly in, you can sink into it and get more flow and more learning from it. So I agree with you on that.
If I'm flying 5-inch, especially cinematic as well, if I'm chucking a GoPro or an Insta360 or something on my 5-inch, I'm going to go and fly some cinematic spots. I will take the 2.5-inch, and I will fly that around the same spot first, Because I mean, number one, it gives me a good idea of like, you know, if I drop behind something, I lose video signal. I'll be like, okay, I'll have to be careful there. But if a 2-inch drone drops out of the sky, it's not really a big deal. If I drop my 5-inch, suddenly it's like, oh, that's 300 quid.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Again, you know, you get in the flow, you kind of you fly around, you get a feel for the space, the area, maybe get some lines in that you enjoy. You kind of practice those, and you can cycle pack after pack after pack, you know, and then you know you're ready for the 5-inch when you chuck it out.
It's surprising how they actually feel like a 5-inch as well.
Especially like the Tiny Hawk. Was it the Freestyle 2, whatever it was? I can't remember what it's called now. But like some of those 2.5, 3 inch, like feels just like a 5-inch. Just the weighting, and you know.
It's funny. I've made a build.
I find that with my diatone, the 3-inch diatone, the GTR 349. Like I'll actually do one pack on my 5-inch just to get my fingers in, and then I'll run 2 or 3 packs on the diatone because it is so damn uber quick. And it does actually feel like the 5-inch. You know what I mean? So you all of a sudden, it's like you're taking 3 shots of Red Bull, right? And then you bring it back in, and then you can plug in your 5-inch again, and you're like, okay, now I'm in the zone. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden you've gone from tootling to, oh my god, to right, we need
dial it back.
Damn right.
Yeah, because the thing's a little damn monster, and I love ripping that thing around. Like I got it out the other day with Jimmy the Pyro when I was flying with him. He was like, oh, why don't you just keep flying your 5-inch? I'm like, no, dude, I've got to get in the zone. He's like, oh, okay, what are you going to do with that? I'm like, watch. And I was just like, oh, God.
Is it 4S or 6S, that thing?
4S. Yeah, that's the 4S one.
Fair.
So I got little 850 cheap batteries. Because it was, I was like, you know what, I'm not spending big money on these because if I stack it and kill the batteries, I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
But, But that's the thing. The little 4 inches, 3 inches, sorry, they can they can really hike, and they're good to get your zone in. To be honest.
They're great for race practice. For race practice, where it's quiet in the field, if you're in a park close to people, you can keep it nice and quiet, and they are just as fast. The power to weight ratio on some of them are just phenomenal. One of them is faster than most of my mates' drones.
Yeah, and it's funny now that there was the 2-inch gap between them all. So people are going too big. 3-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch, and keep crawling up from there. The gaps are being now filled, right? Yes, the technology is getting there, and the size and the power is getting there, but there's talk of 4 inches are now they're starting to turn into a thing more and more. Mainly for long range, but now people want to start racing them because they're like, well, I can get more power to weight out of a 4-inch than I can a 5-inch.
Still hike around a 6S battery on a 4-inch quad. The frame's going to be smaller, lighter, props will be smaller. It's all about weight saving at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And a lot of clubs have just turned around and said, oh, well, traditionally everyone races 5-inch, so we'll just cater to an open class type of thing up to a 5-inch type of thing. And people are now cottoning on and they're going, well, 3-inch really didn't quite cut it. But 4 inches, and all of a sudden you're saving 150, 200 grams. Why wouldn't you?
Dumb right.
And same with the lightweight builds that people are doing with 5 inches. Yeah, great. You can make 150, 160 gram, 5-inch lightweight rig. But all of a sudden, if you can get the same power and drop it by another 20, 30 grams, then you're talking around 100 gram race rig. Damn.
Exactly.
Same power to weight. It's just, it gets crazy. It gets honestly crazy. And it was funny because I don't know if you guys have seen the new Diatone Green series that they've just released. I was looking at the specs on the 2004s. It's over 1,000 grams of thrust. Oh. Yeah, 1063 grams of thrust at max throttle out of a 2004 660 kV. I'm just like, when I saw it, I was just like, no, that's got to be a misprint because they've also got a 20. What is it? 3.5, and I thought there can't be that much difference between the two.
I've seen them.
Yeah,
I have.
It goes nice grams of thrust to over 1,000 grams of thrust. I'm like, you put that on a lightweight build, and you are gone.
That is to the moon territory.
It's a rocket.
Yeah, I was just blown away by it. But yeah, this is what I mean. The technology is catching up, and people are starting to think again. They're going, okay, well, I can get a 20 by 20 all-in-one that's got a 55 to 60 amp ESC on it, you know, F7. It's relatively cost effective. We'll slap that with some 2004 motors, and oh my god, you've gone. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if people actually adopt that and then put it into race leagues. And I'm curious to see how they actually go against some of these guys that have traditionally been fast on a standard type, you know, 5-inch race rig.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I've got 2 builds which are both same components except for motors. One's a 2.5 inch and one's 5 inch.
I did say it.
Just the motors are different. So these all-in-one boards. Oh yeah. I don't know if you've heard of Hiffy on RC.
Yeah, I've seen them around.
They make an F7 board with a 45 arm PSC, and it fits into 2.5 inch drones. But I stuck one in my 5 inch just to see how it performed. I thought, you know what? It's a 6. It can take up to 6S. It's 45 amps. It's an F7. Let's see what it does in a 5 inch with the weight on it. And at the minute, it's my favourite drone, just for the, you know, because it's so cheap of a drone to build. And when you put it into the 2.5 inch drone, you're thinking it's a 5 inch drone, but it's in a 2.5 inch build, and it really is.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been looking, and the reason why I was looking at I've been looking at a lot of 2004 motors lately because I want to do a lightweight race build on a 5-inch build, admittedly, but. You're right. These all-in-one boards, all of a sudden, the one that I was looking at was a flywheel board with I think it was a 45 amp ESC all-in-one with a VTX and everything else. And it was like $8 grand, a whole lot. I'm like, are you kidding? Yeah, it's just, it was ridiculous power, all-in-one, ridiculous weight, and then all of a sudden you slap, you know, some motors on it and everything else, and then
you go. And I think the all-in-ones will come in handy as well.
And now they're damn cheap, really.
They are, and I think it gives you space in your stack. It gives you space in your frame for the air unit.
True.
Yeah, well, that's true. Didn't really think of that, but yeah, you could definitely have. Yeah.
I know it would add to the weight, but it gives you the space rather than having a stack in there.
It's an option, for sure.
I don't know if it's for a racing build or not, but you definitely. I think all-in-ones will be the future soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I noticed it building my racer over last winter. It was a bit like when you're looking at using an ESC and a flight controller separately. Suddenly, the sandwich that you get, you don't have an awful lot of space in there for putting in like your VTX. Where are you going to put your receiver if you've got a capacitor that hangs out the back of your ESC? It's like, I don't know, you're trying to cram these things into ever smaller spaces because the frames are getting tinier and tinier as we kind of look towards these sort of like sub 250 builds and things. And it's like, I don't know, I find myself even, I mean, the Impulse RC Apex that I almost finished, just need a receiver for, funnily enough, because that didn't work. But that, like, freestyle builds are so much nicer than race builds because you have all that extra space to play with. You know, you go to a race build and it's like, oh yeah, your stack's 30 by 30, but then that's it. Like, that's all the space you've got is 30 by 30. Whether it's like an inch high, it's like you got to cram that into that tiny space. And I'm kind of there like, is something going to touch something? Like, do I need to insulate this? Like, is that going to touch that? If I wrap that and heat shrink that, is that going to overheat? Like, you just got so much going on in such a tiny location. I think you're right. Like an all-in-one, if we can really nail those and get them to the point where that is the standard, that's going to be a godsend. Just for cooling, if nothing else, you know.
Exactly that. Also, you know what? I'm finding, you know, the ESCs and you've got your MOSFETs on the ESCs.
Yes.
When one of them blows, right, you've got to change your full ESC. Why don't they manufacture them where you can pull the MOSFET out and push a new one in?
Yeah. True.
Clip it off, clip it on.
MOSFETs are the big thing, aren't they? Like that's the thing. You pop a MOSFET and it's like, great, whole new board, and then you got to order that, wait for that to come in, desolder, resolder, you know. Because they're already looking at plug-in motors and things like that now. It's like, well, MOSFETs would be a great idea.
I could have a big stack of them.
Bag of MOSFETs.
I could just change them over. Take them to the race when my ESC pops. It's like, well, we bring the MOSFETs and plug it in.
Yeah, exactly, man. No, that's very, very true. I think that's something that's one thing I think we do see as we kind of like progress, especially like more recently, is sort of figuring out what is problematic in drones. And like I say, with the motors is always a big thing. Like people are always like, oh, no, because it's a faff. Sometimes you got 12 bloody wires every single time and wiring them all through, routing them around, getting them all looking nice and tidy. I can understand there's a need for that. Like people, especially on a smaller quad, you know, some of the pads on some of those little all-in-ones for the kind of the tiny hawks and things like that, they're a nightmare to solder to, you know.
I like the challenge and I like the soldering. So for me,
different strokes for different folks, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd never used the plug-in one. I like looking and calculating, cutting the wires, the stress of having to deal with it. I love all of that.
I do as well, to be fair. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think like routing the wires round in such a way that it looks pretty, getting the symmetry and kind of, you know, taping everything down to the arms and having it all flush. You know, there's just a real satisfaction in looking.
Definitely get pride in it.
It's almost a shame when you've got a great big canopy. It's like there's all this stuff underneath there, and it looks really nice and it's really pretty.
Got one of those APEX builds over there, and it's the same as yours. And you know, you've got lights on the arms, lights on the bottom of the arms, inside it. There's cables everywhere inside it, and I thought you can't see anything.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. I actually thought on mine, am I going to make it all pretty or not? And I was just kind of like, yeah, no, it's not going to be pretty first time up. I'm going to get it up in the air, and it was just like I'm so excited to get it up and running. But I didn't make it pretty. You take the canopy off, and it's just like spaghetti everywhere. Everywhere, it's not touching. Awesome. I've got a cover on it, so I'm like, nah, I'll get through it one day.
I'm scared to fly it. I don't want to crash it and stop the canopy. It's like it comes as a trophy, doesn't it?
I've stacked mine once.
Yeah, I know.
I've stacked mine once. When I, it was literally the first time I flew it, and I dived the nose into the ground, and it proper like kind of, and it was sort of like upside down, and the camera I could see the grass, and I was like, this does not look good. It went over, and then as I pulled it out, it was just like pulling grass out from in the front of the nose cone. But to be fair, it buckled, but it wasn't like, you could see where it kind of, the plastic had sort of flexed a little bit, but I mean, it's fine. You wouldn't even know to look at it now.
That's good. Oh, yeah.
But I'm hopeful that, I think I forget what the suppliers are in Denmark that they've got. I know that because there's the actual APEX, the 2019 frame, I think that they sell. They should be, I think, having spoken to the guy, I think they're looking at trying to get them out relatively soon. I know APEX are looking at getting some builds done for 2021 if we do end up going to Mexico. So I think what I understood, the guys are looking at creating the other frames at the same time and shipping them out to people that have bought them, but they come with canopies as well if you want them. So my hope is that the canopies are going to become way more available, because I think that's a big thing. I think, you know, none of the other teams have done it. I think APEX obviously giving everyone the opportunity. Okay, we had to pay 20 quid postage, whatever, but it was surprising the uptake for that. I think there's a market there for a sort of a canopy, just because it looks cool. You know, people like a cool looking drone.
Yeah,
I like the fact that I've got one and most people haven't, though.
This is true. This is very, very
if everyone
true.
has got one, the market might go down a little bit. People are buying them because they're rare.
It's like your point of difference has gone out the window. It's like, no, you're no longer special. Everyone's got one. It's like, damn it.
Yeah.
This is very true.
But it's funny because I know that Shane and I have been mentioning it, and I'm pretty sure we've been busting DCL's nostrils about it. That the canopies and the merchandise and stuff like that for this coming year, like, come on, people want it. People want your gear. They want to support. Get on it.
Definitely.
So I'm kind of hoping that, you know, there's more of a presence, a commercial presence this year out of them. Like, we all understand that last year was a bit all over the shop, but this year's, you know, as I've said before, is possibly going to be about the same repeat. So let's kind of get on that.
It's funny, like Twitch this week, there's quite a few people in chat actually, and it got to the point where we were sort of chatting about like where we want to see DCL go, because obviously people were excited for the beta access, things like that, and it was like, I think there was just a massive call for like, yeah, okay, we understand that there's a video game championship. You can't have real life flying at the moment, full stop. You can't do real life anything pretty much. So why would you, Mexico would be great. But again, like it was merch. It was people like, I want a DCL hoodie. Yeah. I want a lanyard. I want remove before flight tag, like just stuff, knickknacks, just stuff that you just go
Pens.
like caps, pens. Yeah, exactly. People want them. Yeah,
I
all
want one of
right.
them. I
Just
want one of them.
he's got friends in high places. That's what it is.
I want one.
I don't. I was actually
These
really surprised when that
Pally
happened.
pally with Zeesh. That's what it is.
Oh,
He
he's posted them, right?
He just turned around and said to me, he goes, "Dude, I was thinking about you. I've got the merch pack. Can I send it out to you? Can I get them to send it out to you?" I went, once I got my jaw off the ground, I was like, "Yeah, hell, dude. Yeah, I'm not going to say no." I was like, "You don't need to do that. Seriously, you earned it. You got it." He's like, "Nah, man, it's all good."
He's probably there like, I've got 4 of them already.
Everybody else.
The guy's too good.
He is good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was another thing actually. Twitch chat. I mentioned PS4 because we were talking about the difference between console flying, PC flying. Immediately, people were like Zeesh, 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 and I was like, you guys are all PC pilots. How do you know about Zeesh? This guy is just I think people are they're blown away by the fact that he sets those kinds of times on a console.
Right.
And I think the resounding opinion was that they were just really disappointed that we didn't get the O2 Red Bull Gaming Sphere draft last year, because they just wanted to see how well the console pilots, being on a par with PC times on a console, how well they would translate to PC and whether that would make them even faster. So they were really disappointed about that, and it was like it's cool that there's that level of community there. I think people are just desperate. I don't even think they care if it's a draft or not. I think people just want to meet each other at the moment.
Definitely, the draft was great. I started off on console first on Xbox, and times went straight up. As soon as I came to PC, they went straight up.
Yeah.
So I think anybody on console coming to PC, they would have improved the time straight away. That would be my prediction.
For sure, we see it in alpha. I mean, I obviously myself and Shredmain on both when we get a chance, but the times are. I mean, even now, maybe 2-3 seconds difference. PC to PS4, and that's I spend far longer on the PS4 as well trying to set a time, because it's surprising. I mean, albeit I've got a really old, I've got a PS4 from release day, so I'm lucky if I get 25 frames a second. But this is the thing. There is a clear distinct advantage, I think, to having that extra power to power the game. No, drafts I think would be. I think when they do happen again, I think it's going to be much needed. I think everyone just seems to have all these friends that they've met online, even now, speaking with you guys, never met either of you in real life, but the draft would be a great opportunity for that. Even the races, It
would, yeah. Because we spend a lot of time talking to people on Discord and social media, and on the game you can message people privately through PlayStation chat or Xbox Messenger, but you can't message them direct on the game. So we do it through other social medias, and there's a lot of connection there.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Surprising.
DCL.
Yeah, it's surprising. Even Twitch, I've never really advertised that I'm doing a Twitch stream, but as long as I put DCL in the tag and it pops up that I'm playing it, I have people just drop in all the time. Just the people from the community, and they're eager to just chat DCL. There's such a following there.
I think with FPV in general, everybody, as soon as you say FPV, it's like everybody jumps on it. You know what I mean? You've instantly got friends that want to talk about the same thing. I think it's the same type of thing with DCL. As soon as you say, right, I'm into drone racing, I'm doing DCL, everybody's like, yeah, sweet, let's talk about this, let's get on it, and whatever else. So, and it's keeping that community vibe going between the two. It's not just a gamer vibe. It's not just the FPV vibe. It's drones in general vibe, which is absolutely awesome. So, if we can keep that flowing, I think that's point of difference for the whole bloody community, to be completely honest. So, and this is what I was worried about with, I don't know if you've found the same pressure with, because you've got CYCLONE's got a team on each platform.
Yep.
And you're all quite competitive and whatever else, but I can guarantee you, and you don't really need to answer this because you might get people offside or whatever else, but I always put it out there. You run into people who are not who they say they are. They might be a good pilot, or they might be a shit pilot, and they're saying that they're a good pilot, but their attitude is not what you think it'd be. You know what I mean? It's not what you like to have around you and whatever else. So talking online, sometimes you need to get onto them and have a face-to-face and actually see what that person's about. You know what I mean? Because there's been people that we've run into that are absolutely amazing pilots or whatever else, but
no, I fully understand where you're coming
from. The same thing, and the wider you go, so you go from your PC team to your PS team to your Xbox team, and
I'm glad you
get these people coming in, and it's like all of a sudden affecting your whole vibe going on. It's just like, you don't want to piss people off, but at the same time, you want to help people develop and learn and whatever. But I'm just kind of like, well, dude, you're a flog. What the hell? We're not the only ones. You guys are probably about the same, and I know there's a lot of other teams and a lot higher up teams than us that are running into the same issue. So I think, do you guys actually have a meeting or anything?
We have Discord where we have a private chat where we talk through the Discord and we organise the team through that. We have specific managers that will run certain parts of the team for us, and I've got to give credit to a guy called Popper Woody. Popper Woody is 50% ownership in cycling as what I am, and we started the team together. Probably I'm actively doing a bit more, but he does things in the background which doesn't show, which keeps CYCLONE ticking over and keeps us going. So I can't take full credit. I've got to give 50% to Popper Woody as well. But yeah, we do. When we first started, we didn't actually plan on being on all three consoles and platforms. We were just an Xbox team, and we won most of the trials, most of the challenges. And at that point, I thought, you know what? After the draft and realizing that people on PC got more recognition, I thought I'm going to PC. So I built PC, went onto PC, said to Popper Woody, I'll run the PC team, you carry on with the Xbox team. Carried on, that launched. And we got approached by somebody from PlayStation saying, we've seen CYCLONE, do you have a PlayStation team? And we said, well, no, we haven't. And he said, well, can I manage that for you? And we said, well, so we spoke to him, a bit of an interview. Yeah, okay, fine, crack on with that. 2 or 3 weeks later, down the line, it's trying to take over CYCLONE, take over everything, and it's the mishy-mashy, and the chat starts getting problematic. And then me and Pop were thinking, this guy is not representing what we want to be represented as. So he went, and a new one came in. And CYCLONE as a community, it probably the same as all teams. The community between itself it runs itself. Everybody gets along with each other. Everybody has laughs. Everybody has jokes. Everybody's friendly. We have disputes, but at the end of it, we come to a conclusion, and everyone's happy. That it feels more of a community to me rather than a team. The chat, I have to check my phone hourly because the amount of conversations that's going off in there is unreal. And I've put a lot into it. There's guys, I'm going to use Dane Dykman, for example. He's on the Xbox, and he'd never flew a drone and never flew a sim. So when DCL came out onto Xbox, he learned on Xbox. And when he first contacted me, it was quite a low ranker, and I said, well, if you can catch up this time, we'll give you a shot. And within 3 days, he was there at that time, and I thought, 3 days, you've got something, you have. And then the next thing you know is top 2 pretty much every week now. And he got to the point where he said, I want to build drones. And in CYCLONE, we talked to each other about building drones, because not everybody in it flies drones, but now they do. A year later, we've taught them to build, taught them to fly. And Dane's out there flying his 2.5 inch, his 4 inch, he's got a 5 inch that I built for him, and he's ripping it around everywhere. So the progression rate from that gives me great reward success, and we help each other, and we seem to be doing all right, actually. So,
It's funny seeing the similarities there between teams as well, because I mean we're very similar. Like obviously we're doing the whole alpha prop thing, and we all started on. Well, I started on the PC, but I just went to PS4 purely out of the fact that it's easier for me to just sit in bed and
lazy
fly.
bugger.
Yeah, exactly. But then because I was on the original beta run of DCL as a game, like before when we had like 2 tracks. Had Lax, I think, a couple of Lax tracks, I think, were the only ones that were on it. So I remember that. Sure, there's a lot of other people that do as well, but I went to PS4. I was lazy, whatever. But obviously, the more that we kind of built up a name for ourselves on the PS4, we had people kind of come in and be like, oh, well, what about the PC? Why don't you go and take on the PC leaderboards? And we're like, well, we're never going to be competitive. I mean, we go there and we set times, but I think the whole ethos behind it really is to, certainly as far as I can tell, really it's about getting people involved. And there's an awful lot of guys that we see that they're fast, but they're maybe not the fastest, and we bring them in. And guys like Bravrick, for example, the guy was always engaging with us on Instagram. We set up the PC team. I was like, look, dude, come on board. And he was like maybe 6, 7, 8 seconds off of the times that we were setting at the time. But it's nurturing and giving that guidance and that help, and especially with the APEX community channel now, putting the tutorial videos, things like that, just kind of help people out and push people along. Brav's like faster than me some weeks now. I'm like, dude, like what the hell? Like, but it's great to see, and you bring these people, you see the potential in these guys, and I think, like you say, Tim, as well, it's finding the real gems, finding the people that are there with the real passion for the hobby. They're not just there because it's this week I'm playing DCL The Game. It's like you want to find the people that genuinely have a love for this sport, but maybe don't have the right way to get into it yet, or they're a bit, they don't really know, especially as far as real life. I mean, our chat is anything from tips and tricks on the tracks this week to my ESC's blown up, how can I fix it? Or Lil's there going, oh, I'm on an interview with these guys, or I'm flying this spot this week. And it's kind of like, it's nice to have some way of connecting with a community to just share your experiences. I think especially now, like this day and age, the way things are, it's just great to be able to be like, hey, I did this week, and have other people be like, wow, we just don't get that enough anymore.
But it's a bit more intimate too, and it's with people that that get you, and you're your own team, and it's that little bit closer network also. It's like, the amount of times I've dropped on Shane, dude, I'm having a really shit one, you know what I mean, like, and we'll just talk it through it, or Shane will do the same. I'll get this massive big long message or whatever else, and the same with Will and some of the other guys, and I know that's why we've kind of stalled to a certain degree trying to get the Xbox team off the ground, because trying to find the right, I can get any guy that puts their hand up to do it, but it's finding the right person that's open and honest and committed, and is really just not going to kill the vibe, and is actually going to contribute to the vibe, and keep on ticking, and not, as you say, try and take over and be a power troop and everything else, and it really comes down to the attitude and wanting to be part of the team instead of just showboating and being a flop.
It's what keeps us all together, is that idea of you're a team. It's that's one of the big pulls, is like I get a little logo that I can put on stuff, and it's like feeling involved. I mean, there's no payment involved or anything like that. It's not like an actual job or anything, but it's that feeling of I'm part of a community within a bigger community, and I can represent this area because I enjoy what these guys are doing. Like, Brav loved the idea that he could come in and he's like, oh, I'm in a team with one of the top female US freestyle pilots, and and I'm all these guys, the guys that are part of the APEX community, and whatever. But it's like I like what these guys are doing. I like being involved with these guys, and I like to share that with the wider community. And then I like the engagement from other guys, like from the Cyclones guys or from the Elite guys, I just love the way that everyone's just so nice as well. I think we chat to the Hot Props guys, we chat to there's no bad feeling between anyone. I think we're all in this together, and I love that. But everyone kind of has their own colours that they fly every week. It's cool, man. I think
it is really good. I think some people need a team, because we've had a lot of pilots that have got skill and that are fast, but then they come on and they say, what graphics settings do you use?
Yeah.
What camera angle do you use? And just a few simple tweaks like that. Yeah. And a few simple tweaks like that can send somebody straight through the roof, and the next thing you know, they're in the top 20. Just a few things can happen like that, and just a bit of time for people is good, but you need them. People come along. People seem to ask. We stick an advert out if we get a space, because whenever we get a space, it's not because we fell out. It's because someone's life's changed, the circumstances have changed, and they can't play the sim.
Exactly.
So they've got the decency to notify us, and we stick them in the background. Say, okay, no problem, fine, thanks for telling us. Everybody's understandable, and then stick an advert out. We've got a space. Within 20 minutes, that space has been taken because somebody wants that knowledge. They want to get to that. They want to move up. Everybody, the team. it pushes you as a team up, but then you get faster pilots coming in, which pushes the team up again, and it's a snowball effect, which is
It keeps
great.
the momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams have failed.
But if you meet a group of people that are, you know, all awesome, supportive, and you've stepped up your game, isn't that what it's all about? And everybody's being collaborative and everything else. That's perfect. That's what you want, you know. And yeah, that's the same as what we're finding and what we feel is that, like, I'll turn around and there'll be, you know, I'll see Jimmy the Pyro on, and he's a relative newbie in the PS team, and he'll be out there ripping laps, and I'll get on there late, and then all of a sudden he's already ripped some laps that are awesome, or I'll see Shred's already been on there and done some awesome laps, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, I got to push. Or even, you know, I'll see a Ghost, and it's just Lil, and it'll be, you know, Shane, and it'll be a couple of others on there, and I'm like, it's cool to actually just know that I'm trailing around with your team. You know what I mean? Even if it's just, all right, I'm just going to make sure that I'm in there, you know, or, you know, wherever I am, as long as we're in there roughly. Just to have the guys on the team is just, you know, even just chasing their Ghosts around is actually, it pushes you, you know.
It is. You don't want to be bottom of your own team.
Telling me. That's my problem on the PC at the moment. We're like, we get these guys in. I'm like, I'm supposed to be managing this team. And I'm like, well, Shreds beats me every week.
I know.
That's the big thing at the moment. I'm on Twitch and everyone's going, oh, how are you doing against Shreds? I'm like, still not beating. That's why we're still live streaming.
We got a guy, Kimei, and Kimei, I can never catch Kimei. He is something another. He's on it all the time, but he develops so much time into the game, but he is so fast. He's done really well. He hasn't, you know, even with him being so fast, we've given him a few tips and PIDs and rates, and off he goes again.
Yeah.
But it's about getting their name out there as well, I think. You know, I know with it was funny. We had Gundren on the team in PC for a little while. Him being a McDonald's wildcard pilot, it's like, why the hell is he not in a team? Like, so we sort of snapped him up, whatever. But obviously he's moved over now to hot props. But it's like, even then, you see that progression through, and it's like, well, we brought him into the alpha prop team, and suddenly people were like, oh, you know, this guy's really good. See if we can get him for our team. And it's kind of like, it's sucked him into a position now where he's probably going to be competing at VGC level next year, just because hot props, you know. I just like I like the idea that you can see that progression come through, but it also for us it's great because it builds our name up. It's like, you know, Gundren's forever going to be known as, well, yeah, he came from Alpha Prop, you know. So it's like it's just that thing. We said to him the other week, like, dude, don't forget about us. He's like, I could never forget about you. Like, oh, it's so good.
Seeing someone progress is great.
I don't remember if he likes it or not. He's still in our chat.
Yeah, I know. He hasn't muted us yet, has he?
In our chat, you're not in the team anymore, get out of here. I'm like, yeah, nah, you can stay, dude. It's all good.
To the side.
No, it's cool, we got it. But it's funny because even from that level going up, you know, as you said anyway, the guys that have had no experience or no exposure to drones whatsoever, you know, all of a sudden, like, there's a couple of people in Alpha that have just never picked up a drone, and they've gotten into DCL. And then all of a sudden, they pick themselves up a little wood or something like that, and they're off flying that around. You know, and who knows? They can keep progressing up to, you know, Gundren's type level. And you know, we've helped them along the way, and you've helped the progression and whatever else. But as I keep saying anyway, like, I'm still using a PlayStation controller. Right? I still cannot get a transmitter to work, right?
Madman.
To Shane's disgust and half the other team's disgust. But I'm still setting decent times, but it's kind of gotten to the point where it's more about what you can do with what you got. You know what I mean? Like,
that makes sense.
You can turn around and have the best gear, and you can have whatever else, and you can drop all this money, and you can still be shit. You know what I mean? And what have you done?
All the gear and no idea.
Broke.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Broke. And I don't want that. But at the same time, it's kind of turned into my thing that, hey, you can still be competitive to some level. You're not going to get top tier. There are a couple of guys. I think there's only me and one other guy on the PlayStation until you hit, you know, I think 30, rank 30 and down, that it starts getting more controllers again. But everybody else is running a transmitter. You know, I know all the CYCLONE guys are running transmitters, and there's only one other guy that isn't. That's in the top 30, as I said. But you can still get out there. You can still give it a crack. And if people want to commit and step up and you know, be part of a team, I think everybody's happy to help and everybody's happy to evolve and be confident in your investment and be confident in developing your skills. And I think that's what it's really all about. You know?
Definitely.
I know, yeah, and I know originally when I set Alpha up is that it was just a case of, right, we're taking on Zesh. We're going to take on Zesh, and that's the main aim. But as it's evolved, it's kind of turned into, you know, Zesh and Elite, they're awesome, they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing, and it's just all turned into a big community and helping each other out.
I don't think it'd be a necessity. I don't think you need to be on all three consoles. I don't think it'd be a necessity for any team to be specifically on all three consoles. You know what I mean? I don't think
I think from a point of view, like, I think it's very easy to have, the more people you've got in your team, the different point of views that you can get. And I think and the different irregularities between the three platforms. So I can turn around and say, right, my PID rate's an X, Y, and Z for the PS. Shane will turn around and go, yeah, but that doesn't really work for me because it's not fast enough on PC. And then somebody on Xbox will turn around and say, yeah, I was a little bit too slow, or whatever the case may be on Xbox, because you haven't got the transmitter support or whatever. So you kind of need a team in each to be able to support each other specifically for those specifics, but at the same time, you know, enough of a knowledge base and a community to be able to help out everybody and anybody with all their general type of questions, and, you know, try this out, try that out, and all those variants. So
it did make sense, yeah.
Well, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, at least anyway.
When I made that track for this week's solo, everyone said great track and all that, but the Xbox people said because we're using a controller, it's more difficult for us and it doesn't feel like an Xbox track, which if you wasn't on that, you wouldn't know. And I've not played my Xbox for over a year, and when I made the track, I forgot about that. You know what I mean? I forgot there's people using gamepad still, and it you know, it might not feel the same as the transmitter. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I think that's a great point.
I think we're going to see a lot more integration of transmitter support and things in the future. I think certainly purely because of the likes of DRL coming in with a game now. Obviously that's been out on PC for God knows how long. I mean, that was what got me into drones. I know it's a swear word, but that is what got me into it. I was playing DRL with a PlayStation 4 controller hooked up to my PC, and I was sat there going, how the hell do people fly drones? Like, this is just impossible. But I stuck with it, and it was good fun and whatever. And then the beta kind of ended. I got the full game and carried on with that. DCL kind of popped up, and I was like, what's this? Like a European version of DRL. Brilliant. Realized it's kind of more team-based and everything like that. Suddenly I was like, well, this is the route, man. Like, this is exactly what I want, being a typical European. Team sports are like the thing. So that kind of dragged me into it. But obviously now we're seeing Liftoff have brought their game to consoles. I think there's talk of Velocidrone having a console option as well. And I think it's like, well, you've got to look at Microsoft and you've got to go, how much longer can you just say you can only have an Xbox controller? I think that was the thing that killed so many of these other consoles in the past, was being too focused on that one thing and not being open to stuff from elsewhere. I mean, Xbox was always about, you had Xbox Marketplace and things originally on the old Xbox Live, was all about creator content and things like that. Now it's gone 360. It's completely locked down. It's, you know, there's no third party support, anything like that, whereas the PlayStation's kind of gone the other way. I just find it's fascinating, really. But I think we're going to see a lot more transmitter support in future, purely because this is such a big thing now. People are using it so much on other consoles.
But I don't think it'll be a transmitter, but I think it'll be a customized controller.
True.
So that I can't see just the games for the Sims changing the whole Xbox regulations and laws on the third-party controllers, because I don't think FPV's that big on the console at the minute. You know, you've got like other games like Fortnite and stuff like that, which are humongous, and for this to compete against that amount of custom is so difficult for them. And I can't see them making transmitter support just for that indie market. But I can see an Xbox controller which responds where the joystick stays down like a transmitter, and there's less deadband in it, so it feels more like a transmitter. I can see that happening, but not necessarily transmitter support.
Yeah, okay. Because it would be interesting if you know, say Sony or whatever else just brought out their own, you know, transmitter style gamepad. You know, they've brought out all these other hinky, you know,
kooky
and weird, you know, guns and this and that and iMove and all these other.
You think the market for third-party controllers now is massive? I mean, you've only got to look at the Call of Duty Warzone thing, you know, it's Call of Duty League. Scuff controllers are just everywhere now. It's the big thing is like, have you got your own bespoke, customized controller that just plugs in and works, whatever? I mean, Scuff works on an Xbox, so who's to say that you won't get a third party like that with some kind of ability to drop the drop the sticks in and have the kind of like that Hall gimbal style control setup? I mean, I think it's very, very possible. If we don't see some kind of way to implement, you know, someone even bring something out, it'd be a box that plugs in a USB port or something that kind of does it. I mean, you see it now, I think, with the little Bluetooth receiver boxes and all that kind of stuff that people are plugging into consoles. So I don't know. I think people will find ways around it, won't they? They always will.
Yeah, there's always ways around everything, and I think you're right there. Somebody will find it. It might even be someone. So you get that DRL that made the game for Xbox. They could sell a package with a controller that works on Xbox, and it could just be as simple as that. Or DCL do the same. Any of them.
I think Xbox is a big untapped market for sure. I think there's a lot of guys on that are setting times that could be genuinely competitive on any other platform.
Do you think it will be cross-platform one day, as in
leaderboards?
No, the game.
Just full stop.
I could, yeah. So you know, you got Call of Duty Black Ops where Xbox can play with PlayStation and PC in one lobby.
Literally DCL was doing that before I jumped on here.
So DCL could do the same. So I go into multiplayer lobby, and it's not just PC people that I'm coming up on my PC. I'm getting the Xbox and the PlayStation. I know you could argue that the FPS is different, the gameplay is different, so the multiplayer lobby wouldn't be the same speed.
No different to any other game, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's Call of Duty as well. Bloody hell! I mean, Call of Duty multiplayer or something like that. FPS is vitally important because it's the difference between seeing someone and getting that head glitch or not. You know, it's
exactly.
But people still do it. I love it. I go on and I'm like, because if I went on and I was only playing with people on Steam, then I'd be waiting 20 minutes to get in a match. Whereas I can jump on and I go, oh look, there's 6 people on Xbox, there's 4 people on PlayStation, and there's me and my mate are on Steam. Brilliant, we'll all play together. And if you want comms, there's comms. There's in-game comms across every.
Exactly that. Plus on you know, the multiplayer race flow, it's only going to work if people are going to play it.
Race flow is a massive thing because I think at the moment it's a bit of a missed opportunity because there's issues clearly with the ghosts. The times that you end up coming up against makes it impossible to really play unless anyone else is playing.
Well, that's how it should be. If no one's online, you shouldn't be able to play it.
But this is the problem. I think people were taking advantage of that, grinding out to the point that they were just setting these ridiculous scores in the leaderboards every week, and it's like, well, how are you going to defeat someone that's grinding out for 23 out of 24 hours every day? But but you need other people to be flying. That's the problem. And I think that it's funny because you think there's such a big community behind it, but I go on to Raceflow and I'm the only person on Raceflow because no one else. We're all probably on the game at the same damn time, but no one's in Raceflow because you're too busy doing other stuff. It's like, why don't you make the Raceflow kind of somehow integrated into team trials every week or trials?
Hang on.
You know, because
that's the bang on point. Put it into the trials and the solo trials, because you got solo trials, the time attacks, and the team things to run. So sometimes people only get one day to play the sim, and they've got to dedicate to probably the team trials because it's more important for the team they're in. Miss out on the solo, sends their solo rank down. So
Yeah.
integrating the race flow into one of those would be an epic idea.
Yeah, just some kind of. I mean, race flow is great because you get those two elements, don't you? You get the element of grinding out a lap to begin with,
Yeah.
and then you get that one shot, tournament style sprint, and it gives you an option as well. It's great because I have played it when other people have been on, and I think DCL last year, the year before, had those kind of like golden hours or whatever it was, where double points and all that kind of stuff, and I think myself, Limitless, a couple of other guys all hopped on at the same time for the European kind of special hour of double points or whatever. And there was a lot of people on, and we were actually racing people, and it was fun because you might not set a great time in the grind, but 2 or 3 people crash out in the race, and it's like boom, points. I got a top 1, top 2 finish. So it's fun because it gives you that, you feel like you're actually accomplishing something, but it also it gives you that racing multiplayer kind of, I don't know, it's totally different to just hitting the space bar all the time.
Having that one chance of possibly crashing, and it definitely gives you more of a chance of
twitchy fingers, mate.
Yeah, it's a different feeling. It definitely is a different feeling.
Absolutely. It's one reason I'm enjoying streaming lately. It's because there's that extra pressure there when people are watching you.
Pressure.
Exactly. I reference you all the time in these.
I had to get it in there, didn't I?
But this is it. Like it does. It gives you that feeling of like people are watching or whatever, or I'm being judged, and I get that as well when I'm flying in a race flow and there's other people in there. You're like, shit, because I'm building up a name for myself within the community one way or another, be it doing YouTube videos or something else, and I want people to think of me well. Of course I do. I don't want to come across as an asshole, but I also don't want to come across as someone who just sits there and grinds for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day just to set one good time and all my other ones are rubbish. So you do feel that kind of pressure to perform when people are watching, or when you're on the on a race floor or something, because you want people to be like, oh yeah, is a force to be reckoned with, or yeah, this guy is actually pretty good.
Race flow is the only way to get that feeling.
Definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it'd be a good way to, it'd be a good way to get the whole team. Like, you can turn around and have a team race flow. You know what I mean? And you can develop each other, and and you can do it live, and you can see what people are doing there, and then you can adjust and tweak and whatever else. And then from your point of view, Shane, you can turn around and do, a race flow live stream.
This is it. Set up race flows. I think that would be such a great thing. But it comes back full circle again to that whole idea of the lobbying system and sorting that out. And I know we've seen, I think, in the patch notes for the beta patch, that there are some improvements underway to get that multiplayer experience to a point where it's worth playing multiplayer.
Yeah, have you played the beta?
I'm on it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like it? I'm
enjoying it actually. Did you do the limited run trials?
Yeah, I've had a quick go of it. So I like it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it's a good format. The idea of an unlimited fly, and then you've got, what was it, like five attempts, I think, to set a lap down.
Yep.
It's funny, we were talking about it in the alpha chat this week with Lil, and she was kind of like really up for it, because it was like the whole idea of, yes, it's gonna hurt when you hit 5 and you don't make a single good lap, but I think crash recovery, I think, was her thing, was like, when you fly in real life, you don't get to just hit reset. And I think the idea of like having a nip in the corner of a gate or something, getting that weird spin on, and then just kind of recovering and straight back on it, if nothing else, that's going to help out.
It definitely changes the experience.
And I think that could possibly, but like I was saying, that's definitely going to weed out the people that are going to sit there and hit restart. And from their point of view, from DCL's point of view, if there's a pilot that can recover and still make good times, or more point, is actually 100% consistent and can hit it all the time and hit really good times all the time, the transition to in real life is going to be a lot easier, instead of some guy that's just sitting there, as we say, grinding out and making a good time.
But it's a good thing as well for the teams to have that data available to them, I think, as well. As part, I think that's the way you're going to go with, say, the draft. Well, the teams could go, okay, so we got these 3 pilots that we're thinking about. let's take a look at their times on the draft. You know, we like the interviews that they've all done. Here's the draft. Okay, well, this guy managed to do 1 good lap and 4 rubbish ones. This guy did 2 good laps and 3 rubbish ones. This guy did 5 good ones. Well, it's a no-brainer then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I did suggest a while ago, actually, to DCL that it should show how many attempts we've had, and people didn't like the idea of that. But I think
be up in the thousands. Like,
I think it's nice to know.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
and that, and working out how long you've actually spent on track, and all those type of stuff. You know, for those that are interested, I think
there's a lot to be said.
Available.
The data's obviously there. I think there's a lot to be said for having that available to you if you want to see it. I'd love to know how many times I've flown DCL 19 on Lux, purely because I flipping love that track, and I know I've put thousands of runs into that.
You know, just have all those stats for the nerds. Like, seriously.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Have them.
Always stats for the nerds.
Yeah, for sure.
I want the stats. You do need them.
Like,
well, look at Formula One. No one's going, "Oh, Lewis Hamilton won all these races." Everyone's going, "Okay, one of those races. How many fastest laps? How many? You know, how many times? How many times he changed his tires that race?" It's all about the minutia. Maybe not with Lewis Hamilton. I'm not a very big fan, but other drivers, you know. But that's what you get involved in as a Formula One fan. It's all about what's the tyre strategy, how long was he in the pits for, how many, you know, where's he shaving tenths off of this lap, where's the apex in that corner, where's the best thing with this. No one's like who won the race, because we know who won the race. It's Lewis Hamilton. What we want to know is how did the race unfold and how did they get to that point and why are they that good. You know, it'd be rubbish if Formula One was just a 2-minute episode every week and they went, "Oh, Lewis Hamilton won in Bahrain this year." We'd be like, "Oh, okay, brilliant, next." You know, same with football. How many corners? How many throw-ins? Where's this guy? Where are they scoring from the most? Like, it's just that's what you want is stats. I think that's certainly something that's been missing in the game.
If you're going to look at a pilot's profile on any sport, you look at the stats of his boxing, you look at the height, the weight, his reach.
Yeah,
everything.
UFC, the whole. Yeah, exactly.
No matter what sport it is, you look at the stats. So for a pilot in DCL, I know it's a sim and it's a game and it's a fun and its stats can make it too. I don't know. Some people might not want to show all the stats, but if you're competing and it's a trial and it's a competition, stats should be there.
But even for team managers and stuff, like you know, the sort of the amateur managers and things, just for teams like us, if you're looking at bringing someone on and they're saying, "Oh, exactly. I've been grinding this out," and you can go in and go, "Okay, yeah, like their times are really drastically improving," or, "Well, no, they're not. They haven't really done any flying this week." You know,
at the minute you can't tell that. You've got to take someone's word for what they're saying. And
if they pop up on the leaderboard, then brilliant. Yeah, but if not,
exactly.
Yeah,
totally.
Remarkable filling it, but you know they've got no real commitment or whatever else. Versus somebody that's been, you know, slowly progressing for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what are you flying? What are you predominantly flying at the moment in real
life?
What? I'm flying.
I've got so many. I've got so many drones, but at the minute I've built the basher, which I call it basher because it's a drone that I don't care about. It doesn't matter if I bash, doesn't matter. But it's, do you know, because it is a basher, it's so fun to fly because it's a different experience than I've had before.
You're not precious about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you know, you can go for dives, you can go for small gaps, you can trash it through near water. It doesn't matter if it drops in it, but because you've got that freedom in your brain when you're flying it. It feels like a better experience rather than having the GoPro on the drone and power loop the tree and thinking I'm going to get stuck in that tree. Oh, no. That's subliminally in your brain when you're flying. So if I try and remove as many subliminals as I can, the flight is better and enjoyable. So yeah, I'm enjoying flying my basher at the minute. But I've got about 12 builds, and depending on what I'm doing, depends on what I fly. But I always start, like we said earlier, with the 2.5-inch drone before I move on to the 5-inch drone. Learn the lines, learn the area, scout the area. If it's a track I'm flying, because I set the tracks up randomly. I don't plan the tracks before I go out. I just set them up randomly. Think, yeah, that looks like a good track, and then fly around it, see what it feels like. And the 2.5-inch drone comes in handy for that. I don't tend to fly much freestyle no more, because COVID just kicked in and all that. But racing, the craving of racing, that feel when you're going around the track, it's the only thing that really gives me a buzz nowadays when I'm flying. Freestyle is fun, but I don't get a buzz from it, if that makes sense. It's more calm flying and race. It's got to be the race. So, and I've got a 6S drone, racing drone, which is down there somewhere. But I didn't build that one. A guy called Walter Court built me that, and that's really fun to fly. That is, but try not to fly it too much because I don't want to crash it and break it. So yeah,
it's like, yeah, I've got it, and it's just like, yeah, I love it, but I don't want to kill it.
yeah, exactly that. So that's where the basher comes in nice and handy. And I mean, the 2.5-inch drones, they don't cost that much, but I do enjoy flying them.
Yeah, nice.
I think that's the thing. I think there's a time and a place for freestyle, certainly. But I think you're right. It's one thing, like, it's one thing flying a freestyle drone where you got all your extra gubbins on it. You know, if you crash it, there's a hell of a lot more at stake. Versus, I mean, I've certainly found it with my little race quad that I built. I mean, I've got no races to actually attend, but damn it, I'll fly myself a race quad just because it is just that thrill of the speed and hitting the gaps and hitting the lines and just getting that kind of flow state on. You know, that's what's super enjoyable. And when you haven't got to worry about smashing up 800 quid's worth of GoPro, it just feels, I don't know, and again, it's the feel of it as well. You know, there's not that extra weight, there's not that extra kind of cumbersome, you know, the air's kind of going over it in a much nicer way, and I don't know, the camera angles are so much higher. Absolutely, I'd totally get on board with that. I think
working on a track, as in training, as in real training, you know, when you're going into the field, you've got your track set up and you're focusing on a specific corner to get tighter, or you're focusing on a ladder to get tighter, and then you try and take it backwards a little bit tighter. That training aspect is what gives me the buzz. If you know, you can feel your progression or you mess up, and I get more of a buzz from that than any freestyle fly. Or I don't do any cinematic at all, because it's, you know, I think anybody could probably do cinematic if you tried. And it's just not for me. It's got to be the speed, the raw, the intense, the pressure. It's got to be there. You know what I mean? It's got to be there. The more I can feel strain on my brain,
yeah, man,
the more
enjoyment. Not worth it.
That's why you're doing it, though, isn't it? Because why else would you take out an FPV quadcopter than to go stupid fast?
Well, I mean,
you know, you can do your okay. There's an element of sort of the cinematic stuff and everything else, but I think really FPV was largely founded on, if you're going to do cinematic, it's strap a GoPro on and just hope it doesn't fly off when you're spinning around at 2,000 degrees a second. You know, it's always been about pushing stuff, you know, the likes of Mr. Steels and Bot Grinders and all those guys that are just, what's the stupidest place we can fly this drone through? It's always been about that, pushing the limits, whether it's racing or freestyle.
When I first started flying, you get simple buzzers just from looking through the goggles.
True.
And seeing that image. You know, when you know, you fly up really high up in the air and you're looking around thinking, and your brain's like, what? And all you've done is gone up. So after a period of time of flying, that buzz changes.
You get numb to it, don't you? And then it's like, what's the next big thrill?
Yeah, exactly. You need
Where can I send it?
So after time, I think most people end up going down one path of freestyle racing, or they're just happy doing cinematic. You know, it's probably those. It's probably those three different categories of pilots. Might be wrong on that, but that's just the way I perceive it from what I've seen.
I would agree. I think you're right. I think freestyle is a lot about the acrobatic side of it. You've got your racing, which is just balls to the wall, fast as you can. But there is that cinematic side to it. And going back to the DJI thing, I think that's where that is really going to shine, because it allows you the kind of freedom of an FPV setup with your kind of Mode 2 sticks and everything, but you're not locked in to having a drone that's only capable of flying around like this. You know, it's like that cinematic side of it. You want to take those really nice, smooth, gimbaled cinematic shots. Yeah, I mean, maybe that is something for you if you're locked into the DJI ecosystem. Fantastic. Likewise, if you want to just grab yourself a GoPro Hero 9 and spend half the money on it, same thing. But cinematic is definitely, I think, one of the things that's taken off more recently. I think obviously we saw the rise in freestyle. We saw the rise in, well, why don't we race these freestyle drones as well? Or it's kind of the same sort of time period with those things. But cinematics kind of come out of that DJI era, and people are going, well, I could do cinematic with a regular quadcopter.
You get the editing as well. I mean, there's another side to drones, and it's the editing your videos, and you can get enjoyment out of that. And you know, I've never really done editing on my videos. I just always post the raw footage because I'm not very good at editing. And if I'm going to show my footage, I want people to see my piloting rather than a good video. But I haven't got the skills to make a good video if I tried anyway. So hats off to those people who can. And Yeah.
I just kind of, I've always gone with the whole, you know what, I'm going to chuck out what I've got. You know, people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't.
Bit of DVR or...
You know, and yeah, and that's where I started with my DVR to start with, and I got cop flack over that to start with. But now it's just kind of like, well, my gear is what my gear is. I'm out flying. I'm enjoying it. If I'm going to share it, I'm going to share it. If people are going to like it, they're going to like it. You know, you're not coming to look at one of my videos for the best editing. You're not coming for the best, you know, piloting. You're just coming for, you know, check out a different spot potentially and see what's going on and, you know, come along for the ride of my day type of thing. Don't get me wrong, credit to those who've got the time and the energy and the passion and the knowledge to get the awesome videos out there. Great, you know, awesome edits out there. And you don't need a lot to get them out there, but I just don't have that time commitment. You know, I'd rather be out with packs. And it is, and it does take a bit, and it does take a bit of, you know, it's a whole nother element that you've got to invest in. And I'm still investing in gear, and I want to invest in other things that, you know, to me are a slightly more, a bit more of a necessity at this point in time than
yeah, I think it's important to make the flying fun first and foremost. I mean, if you're not flying a rig that's really working for you, or you know it's a bit broken, then that's got to be priority number one. I think for me certainly, I just went out and got an Insta360 Go because it was dirt cheap. I could chuck it on the drone. I can just plug it into my phone, get the footage on there. I can you know, email it to myself or whatever if I want to edit it and I want to fiddle around with it, or if I've got time to go in and color grade things or chop things up, put some music on it or whatever. I mean, it doesn't take me a very long time to do any of that now because it's just Insta360. Same with DVR. It's great, you know, the Fat Sharks. You just like take out the micro SD, plug it into the PC, whack your footage on. There's you know, Bob's your uncle sort of thing. I think with something you got like GoPros and stuff, suddenly it becomes an awful lot more complex because you're looking at, well, do I put real steady on it? Do I use the in-camera kind of steadying thing? When I take it out, how do I color grade it? What other software do I use for that? It's a whole other level. I'm happy to just take that Insta360 footage, chuck it in Sony Vegas, and then just boop, music, off we go. Like, you know, that's enough for me.
I tend to find if I've got a GoPro on my drone and I'm flying, and I know the GoPro's recording, I subliminally change my flying because of thinking, is this roll going to come out nice and smooth? Is this going to come out nice? And it affects my flying. So it's another one of those, it's another one of those subliminal things that I try and remove when I'm flying, because you either flying to have the fun or you're flying for the recording.
True.
Yeah. Exactly.
You see what you know I'm coming from.
It's like people say you walk different when someone's watching you or something, isn't it? Like it's that thing. It's that idea of like, I know it's recording. Someone's going to be watching this. I hope I don't mess it up.
Yeah, and it's kind of the thing with the orange. Like I'm using the Runcam Orange 5. You know, if I'm not using the Runcam Split, as soon as I put stabilization mode on, the way I fly is different because I know that if I go too fast or too slow, it'll get jittery. Do you know what I mean? So all of a sudden you're flying to not enjoying how you're flying. So I just turned it off and just went, oh well, it is what it is. You know, either learn to fly smoother or, you know, deal with it. So.
Yeah, I tend to not record many of them. I used to record my first flights to watch them back, learn where I was going wrong, get better, and it helped me get better watching it. And I would always recommend to a starting pilot, record your flights.
Even just DVR, man. Even just DVR.
Yeah.
Damn right, yeah. But even nowadays, I don't really record many of my flights because I'm too busy enjoying the fly. You know, I go out to fly, and that's about it. I don't go out to fly and then show anybody, which I probably should start doing that and posting a few more and seeing what reactions we get and tips maybe from other people and all that. But
that's the biggest thing we get.
It's one of the nice things about it though. I do love still coming home and just immediately, like the first thing I do is after I've unpacked my bag, I'll always chuck my DVR on to just kind of, because I don't know, I just like to relive what I've done sometimes. And you know, sometimes it's nice to kind of go back and be like, that was a really nice track. Like I really enjoyed having that slalom section or having that kind of that split S section or whatever, and then kind of looking at it and being like, okay, maybe I wasn't as tight as I could have been through there. Maybe I can tweak that. And the next time you go out, you remember and you put that same obstacle in that same place. Or, I don't know, a bit of posterity maybe, just kind of going back and looking back at old footage. I'm unlucky at the moment. I've not been able to kind of use my Insta360 maybe as much as I'd like, but I don't know. I'm a bit different. I do like having my nice HD footage of some of my flights, just purely for watching back myself. I mean, I don't post half the stuff that I record. Really, a lot of it's just there so that I can go back and remember. Oh yeah, that was a cool spot, or you know.
Yeah, I've got some when I go out with some friends to some spots, so some bandos and that, and your first time there, and you think the flight is going to be dead good. You do the flight, you look at the footage, and you think, oh, I'm not going to upload that, but it's still nice to have that footage. Yeah,
cool to remember.
What you mean, yeah,
totally.
I also go back and find that you watch it back over even just quickly, and you go, I didn't notice that recorded that, or you find a gap. Because you were focused on flying, you didn't find gaps, and you go back next time, you go, sweet, I'm going to hit that gap, or you thought, oh shit, maybe if I go this way and come back, you get that other perspective also. So the next time you go out, you are progressing. You are changing up, even if it's just a freestyle run, or even if it's just a cinematic run. You're just going, oh wow, if I just did X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I pretty much record everything, and I've got the last 18 months worth of nearly every damn flight recorded on some format or another, and I'm just like, I'm gonna really have to rationalize those, but not everyone's gonna see everything. Not everyone's gonna see them all, but it's good to go back and have a look and see how you're traveling. And go, wow, it really was such a difference that I learned, what a PID was, and changed my bloody rates and all this other stuff, because you go from this. And I've been doing it the same, because I was back out yesterday. I've changed my rates again. I've just been lowering them again. And yeah, you go from not being able to go anywhere, which is my cat just attacked me.
It's a tiger.
You just go from, right, now he's going to get cat tails, like, all right, I just want to say thank you very much to Pressure FPV for coming on the APEX Community Webcast. Thanks, my friend. It's been awesome to catch up with all your crazy track building skills. So thank you very much again.
But yeah, thanks for the kind words. Appreciate it, and it's been great speaking to you guys.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, dude.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers, guys.
So make sure you check out Pressure FPV's all these socials down below. We'll leave all the links down below. Make sure you check out the APEX Community Facebook pages, and make sure you come and join the APEX Community community page, and make sure you check out the APEX Community merch. Thank you very much again, Shane, for your awesome modeling skills. All the links will be definitely down below. And until next time, fly safe,
fly fast, and
fly APEX.
Fly APEX, fly Cyclone.
See you guys in the next one.